Gary and Neil. Gary and Neil appears to be back on. You know what? There was nobody. And guys, I just got home. You can hear it in my voice. I mean, I just got home from Vegas. I've been cheering. I've been screaming. I've been having a great time. But I got to tell you, I spent an entire week in Las Vegas. Entire week around UFC 296. From the media to the weigh-in to the fight itself to the post-fight to the fans. Ian Garry was the talk of the town. There was no conversations talked about more than Ian Garry. I went and did Fighters Only, World MMA Awards. And one thing about that is they have a red carpet, and it's very cool, and you go from place to place. You get to get dressed up, right? It's fun. It's a very special thing. I did 5 interviews that night. Now, the ultimate prize is Fighter of the Year, whether you wanted to do that for male or female. The only award show that I used to follow, I follow none of them now, but I used to follow the Country Music Awards back when they were making country music. They quit in 1992. But when they were actually making country, I would watch that, and there was one award that mattered, and it was called the Entertainer of the Year. And that Entertainer of the Year, okay, being the big one, would be the equivalent to Fighter of the Year, whether it was male or female. When I did the red carpet in 5 interviews, I was not asked who I thought would be Fighter of the Year a single time. I was not asked how this came about. I was not asked what channel it would be on and when it would air. All 5 interviews, I was asked about Ian Garry. And I just offer you that so that you understand it was a very big deal. Oh, and by the way, it didn't end because Dana wisely booked and announced Ian Garry's next fight. It's going to be in March. I think March 8th. Don't hold me to that. And Ian Garry is going to be opposite Jeff Neal. Now, it was very wise to do. It was a very helpful thing to do for Garry. Because now you have something else to talk about. That's important that you understand. So, Jeff Neal was scheduled to take on Garry, and to put in perspective for you, on an undercard the night that Sugar Sean became champion over Aljo Sterling. They were booked for that date. It was in Boston. The fight didn't happen. And just prior to the fight not happening, Ian Garry had gone online and he found a mugshot of a night that Jeff Neal was arrested for DUI. And he took the face from the mugshot, he put it on a t-shirt, and he sold it on his Instagram. And this enraged Jeff Neal. Now, I personally wanted to see the fight because Jeff Neal he's good. Jeff Neal's a problem for anybody. He's just a real athletic wonder. He's a very good fighter, but he's also just very athletic. He can do things other people can't do. He was born with some very good skills in terms of DNA. So was Ian Garry. Ian Garry is very athletic. So I wanted to see this fight. And when that picture came out on the t-shirt, Neal lost his mind, from what I'm told. But it made him very upset. And he thought that was off limits. He thought you should not have done that. You should not be able to do that. We are sportsmen. That was an embarrassing, and I dealt with it. And for you to bring it back up, I mean, this was just Neal's standpoint, which is very fair. But it's important that you do know that story so that when people then go and do this to Garry, say, hey, you started this. You did a very cruel thing. It was cruel what he did, Garry, to Neil Magny. It was mean-spirited what he did to Neil. I'm on board. I'm on board. I don't have a problem with a little mean-spiritedness. I'm just sharing with you. If this is the code that we're going to live by when it comes back on you, it's fair play. So remaking this fight, I think, does add a level of excitement. But I don't fully know why we lost it in the first place. A lot of people said, I am not co-signing this. Because I don't know that I believe it. But a lot of people said that Garry was so into Neal's head because of this picture that that's why Neal pulled out. So I think we have something special to look forward to there. I think we have 2 guys that are going to go out, give us some fun build-up, and that's a colossally challenging match to try to handicap. first thing that I would like to know is, where is Ian Garry going to train? I don't know where he has been training, and I've asked it a million times. Is he going to go back to Stanford? Is he going to be locked in? They call themselves kill Cliff Bars now. Is he going to go back there? That'd be a really good sign. Get back there, get started right after the new year, get a few good months in. And the other thought that I had when I saw that fight announced, the reason Garry didn't fight Luque was because of Garry. No, we give a guy a pass. We understand. You get sick. You get injured. We understand those things. But make no mistake, the skunk at the garden party, nonetheless, was Garry. So for Garry to get booked before Luque, what am I missing here? I mean, that's a very interesting situation. I remember when Islam beat Volk. It was a huge fight. Dana revealed it was a top 5 pay-per-view of all time. We don't know where it went. Did it go number 1, number 3, we just know it was in the top 5. Islam comes out on top. He can't get a match. But Volk gets a paycheck 4 months later. I mean, it's one of these interesting situations. So, did something happen with Luque that we don't know about? I mean, did something happen? The way the story was told to me, Luque was willing to fight, thought he found himself an opponent in Kevin Holland, had even worked out an agreement publicly for what weight they would compete at, and that match ended up not coming through. So, is there more to it? Is there something more that I missed? And now when we're armed with the fact that Muhammad is not being held for a guaranteed number 1 contender, and he was there and he was on the card, could have put them together, had an actual trilogy fight. Are you guys aware of that? They fought twice and they've split. And none of those things happened. So were those things offered? Were those things discussed? Were other things offered and other things discussed? I mean, the quickest way to find yourself with how to fight in the UFC is to be offered a fight and say no to the fight. That will get you put to the back of the line. But did those things happen? I was never told that they happened. I never saw them happen. There's a rumor today that has now come out that Luque was given multiple opponent offers and said no to them all. I don't know their names. Nobody's come out publicly and said I was one of them. And I don't know very many guys that would fall into a category of a save-the-day fighter opposite Luque that could have made weight and been licensed and gotten to Vegas on that short of notice. I don't know how much I would believe that. So it's one of those things. It's one of those interesting questions of what did happen there. Why would the guy that screwed this up be booked? Right? I mean, you got to understand, a booking, it's a really big deal. It's a colossally big, this is how you get paid. So the guy that did everything right isn't going to get a check, but the guy that didn't do everything is going to get a check, right? I mean, it's one of these situations that when you find out what actually happened, it all makes sense. Like, there's never a conspiracy, and there's never anything weird, and there's never anything unethical or unreasonable. Never. When you find out what happened. But we seldomly do. So if you're a 170-pounder, and you were offered Luque, please raise your hand. And whatever caveat there was, please disclose it. Did you say, I'll fight him, but it has to be at 180? I can fight him at 178. Did you change it? Because whoever accepted the fight and was going to get there and was such a professional that their weight was in striking distance of 170 deserves credit. I'd love to give it to you. I'm told you exist. I'm told 3 of you exist. Show yourself.